Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live from the Black Star Network in Los Angeles, where the 54th NAACP Image Awards is taking place on Saturday. Last night, they began to give out some of the awards. Virtually, we'll tell you, Jennifer Hudson and others who are the big winners. They're giving awards out each night. Then, of course, they have the Friday pre-show, where our award is going to be coming up, and then the broadcast on BET on Saturday. So we'll tell you about that. The Biden administration has put in some new rules, not allowing people to actually travel from other countries through Mexico to get a year. So we'll tell you exactly the impact on black and brown migrants. Montgomery, Alabama, the mayor there is looking to press criminal charges against the man who secretly recorded him and leaked a profanity-laced video audio that he says was also chopped up. Wait till we tell you about this here. New York City parents say their children endured years of racism, have filed a civil rights lawsuit against the city's education department. Amos and Tiffany Winbush said their children have endured unimaginable racism, physical and emotional trauma during their time at the Peck Slip School. We'll talk to them as well as their attorney. Also, the family of Malcolm X, they are suing New York and several federal agencies for responsibility for his death. Of course, at the Audubon Ballroom. Plus, we're going to preview the upcoming State of the Black World Conference with Ron Daniels, president of the Institute, the Black World 21st Century. Plus, the creator of the world's first ever virtual reality charter school will join us for on our Tech Talk segment. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
They want to hold the people accountable who they say played a role in his death. Their attorney is Ben Crump. They have filed a $100 million lawsuit against the CIA, the FBI, and the New York City Police Department, saying they played a role in the death of Malcolm X. The announcement took place at the Audubon Ballroom in Upper Manhattan, where Malcolm X was shot and killed on February 21st, 1965, flanked by her sister, Quabila Shabazz, and attorney Ben Crump. Iyasa Shabazz says she hopes the events that shattered her mother will finally tell the story of who was behind her father's death.
On February 21st, 1965, my mother came here excited to see her husband because a week prior, her home had been firebombed. She walked in here happy, and she left out shattered. For years, our family has fought for the truth to come to light concerning his murder, and we'd like our father to receive the justice that he deserves. The truth about the circumstances leading to the death of our father is important, not only to his family, but to many followers, many admirers, many who look to him for guidance, for love. And it is our hope that litigation of this case will finally provide some unanswered questions. We want justice served for our father.
Now, folks, remember, 3 men were convicted, but Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam were exonerated in 2021 after a renewed investigation into the cases against them showed evidence used to gain convictions was shaky and that authorities had held back some information. Aziz and Islam spent more than 20 years in prison. Islam died in 2009. In October, Aziz and Islam's family settled a $26 million wrongful conviction lawsuit with the city of New York. When we come back, we're going to talk to our panel about this here. So many questions that people have that still are unresolved regarding the assassination of Malcolm X. And so we'll discuss that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Don't forget, download the Black Star Network app. Available on all platforms: Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also support us by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do, cover the stores around the country. Send check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, a relationship that we have to have. We're often afraid of it and don't like to talk about it. That's right, we're talking about our relationship with money. And here's the thing, our relationship with money oftentimes determines whether we have it or not.
The truth is you cannot change what you will not acknowledge.
Balancing your relationship with your pocketbook. That's next on A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
I'm Bill Duke.
This is Diala Riddle, and you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered. Stay woke.
Go to the wide shot. What do y'all do? Folks, joining us today on our Wednesday panel, let's get right into it, talking about, again, this lawsuit on behalf from the family of Malcolm X. We've got Scott Bolden, a lawyer based here in Washington, D.C., Robert Patillo, host of the People's Passion Politics News Talk 1380 WAOK in Atlanta. Also, Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Elections Center. Scott, I'll start with you. This lawsuit, we know through, it was a Netflix documentary. We had the brother who did it and on the show, and he really uncovered so much information about it. And then, of course, you have this particular settlement here. And here's the deal with this lawsuit. We know there's a lot of information that is still redacted. That was a New York Police Department officer who, on his deathbed, talked about NYPD's involvement in this. What do you make of this lawsuit seeking answers?
It's a really interesting lawsuit, a bit late in the game, but Ben Crump must believe he's got a smoking gun document, or he's filed this lawsuit to get access to those documents that have been kept secret or been redacted for several years. In a civil lawsuit, you can produce documents under seal whereby only the judge can see these documents if necessary. And that's one way of getting to them if they're relevant, probative, or material. Secondly, Is the evidence stale? Are the witnesses still alive? A smoking gun document says that confirms a conspiracy to kill Malcolm X beyond what we believe. A smoking gun witness that's still alive. Remember, this happened a long time ago. Do you have that person, and have you locked them into his statements to prove conspiracy? I think they've got an uphill climb, but the journey is going to be worth it if they can uncover, regardless of damages, if they can uncover and tell America what really happened in the assassination of Malcolm X.
Robert, I see this really as an opportunity to try to wrangle out the information that for so long has been suppressed.
Absolutely, and I think the primary focus of this is not on the quote-unquote $100 million, but the primary focus has to be getting past the motion to dismiss, getting past the motion for summary judgment, and getting to discovery, allowing the family to open up discovery in order to get interrogatories, requests for production of documents, depositions for any living individuals to open up police records as to what happened. The truth is, somebody out there knows exactly who killed Malcolm X, and the truth has to come out at some point. And I think this will be a great place if Democrats do retake power in 2024 for congressional hearings into the entirety of the governmental assassinations during the civil rights movement. We have many black political prisoners who are still in custody until this day. There are many black radicals who have stayed in exile their entire lives. We know the impact that the CIA and the FBI and other federal agencies had in fighting back and the political assassinations and prosecutions of many black revolutionaries. And I think it's time for Congress to come to terms with this, open up a full congressional investigation and provide answers to the hundreds or thousands of individuals who were murdered by the government of the United States of America during the course of the fight for black liberation.
Rebecca, folks, a lot of people may not remember there was a United States House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1976. They were investigating the deaths of John H. Kennedy, President John Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So what Robert's talking about, that is not something that hasn't been done before. And remember, the King family actually had a similar suit where it was determined who played a role in the death of Dr. King. That actually went to trial. So what he's saying, it's been done before. So this lawsuit is not out of the norm.
Sure. So we could look at precedent of where, yes, there should be some type of investigation. That investigation, yes, should happen publicly. Congress is a great platform in which to do so. But, broadening this out, just like what Scott and what Robert are saying, is that we need to look into the full COINTELPRO. We really need to understand what happened during the civil rights movement. We really need to understand the federal government's role in undermining and at times perhaps even working with state governments to undermine the movement. But to Scott's point about timing, unfortunately, this is the right time to do it. And I wouldn't say that this has happened, that the family has waited too late, but this is the opportunity when they've been able to do it. Waiting until 2021, where two of the folks who were convicted, their convictions was overturned. And then having those two people actually settle on the civil side for the time that they served, that they should not have been deprived of their freedom. So right now, this is the next step in that course correction. And yes, this has to be done publicly. The family deserves to know what happened to Malcolm X, and the public deserves to know what happened to Malcolm X.
Yeah,
again, there's so Scott, go ahead.
This would happen 60 years ago. Whatever has been blacked out of those confidential documents that are lying at DOJ, the real question if you get congressional action or even you subpoena them is whatever the standard is for keeping it blocked out for national security purposes, are those purposes still necessary or real after 60 plus years? It may not make any sense. And one thing the plaintiffs may do in this case is make an application to DOJ or the other agencies or even to the White House to allow those documents to either be unsealed, because the national security purpose has run its course, if you will. In fact, on some of these documents, you have to re-up after every 20 years or so, and that's got to be a parallel effort on the part of Ben Crump and the family.
You know, the thing that I've always said, Robert, and I wish you had folks who were pressing President Biden on this before that, President Barack Obama. I fundamentally believe that every single piece of information in the Department of Justice dealing with COINTELPRO and civil rights folks should be all released unredacted. We need to know everything. We need to know who the hell were informants. We need to know what the hell they were saying. To me, all that is important because what this country did to black people in that period, to me, is an abomination.
Oh, well, not just what they did, what they are still doing. We know for a fact, we've seen in the last several years, people infiltrating peaceful black marches and then attacking individuals, trying to turn them into violent rallies, online provocateurs, as it would be, trying to create division within the black community and the civil rights movement. So it's not that the government stopped doing these things, it's just they changed tactics to be updated with the times. And this is why I think it's so difficult to get congressional action or a presidential blue ribbon panel on the issue, because not only will we be uncovering what they did previously, we'd be uncovering what they are currently still doing. And the crimes that this country has committed against those black revolutionaries during the civil rights movement. Imagine trying to go to Russia and talk to them about human rights violations after disclosing what America did to black people in this country. Imagine trying to have the moral high ground against China or any other foreign adversary, Iran, etc., on the world stage after disclosing what America did to African Americans in this country. There's a reason it was not until Malcolm went to the United Nations to call for human rights violations against the U.S. government that is when they decided that he no longer was fit for life on this earth. We know the government was involved. We know that there were other entities involved, and the reason that we are not seeing congressional action yet is because they do not have their house clean. They don't want anybody seeing inside yet.
Rebecca?
You know, maybe at this point as Black Americans, we have to go beyond the United States federal government. Maybe we need to go to The Hague. Maybe we need to go to the International Court Tribunal and actually make our case there. Because the point is, we need to have something in the historical record. We need to be able to point and actually have official documentation of this is what the experience of being Black in America has looked like. These are all the things that the federal government and state governments have done to its Black citizens. And then as we move forward with reparations, we know exactly where and how and who and what those reparations should go to.
All right, folks. So before we go to break, glad to have Scott Bolden here. He's not sitting in jail. Y'all might remember the story we told you about where the federal judge in Baltimore in the case of Marilyn Mosby, she was not happy with Scott, y'all. She threatened to throw his ass in jail. I don't know whether or not she dated a Kappa in college, but let's just say, man, she was upset with Scott cussing on the courthouse steps. And, of course, her going after Scott caused his law firm to have to remove themselves from the case of Marilyn Mosby. She had to get new attorneys in that case as well. So, Scott, bring us up to date on what happened with your case, because clearly you're free.
What an intro. Yeah, thanks, Roland, I guess. I mean, my goodness gracious.
Scott, you got to admit, that was a hell of an intro. That was a hell of an intro.
Yeah, I could write a different one, brother. But essentially, the case was reassigned to a senior judge. The senior judge conducted the hearing yesterday, Judge Richard Bennett. And after the hearing and presentation by my lawyers and court heard from me, essentially, and this is public information, the court decided that admonishment was certainly in order, which we accepted and accepted for sure. But the court decided not to seek criminal sanctions, no referrals, and the case essentially is over. The order, as well as the proceedings, are all a matter of public record. I'm very happy that it's behind me. And listen, I look forward to Marilyn Mosby's innocence with a new set of lawyers. And I'm continuing to support her and advise her along the way. She's a wonderful public official, former public official, got a wonderful family, and I'm confident that she'll be exonerated in the end.
All right, then. Well, good, because I didn't know whether we got to sit here and rustle up some bail money to get you out. Don't have to do that, so glad to see.
Call Roland, and call somebody. Tell him I'm in here. And Roland would take his time getting it. He said he'll call me a couple of days later. You still in?
Hey, if Alpha call me, I'll be there.
Right, exactly.
Robert, what did you say, Robert?
I said it's called zealous advocacy. If you haven't almost gone to jail representing the client, you ain't been trying hard enough.
It was been a very difficult place to be in, notwithstanding. It's been a very difficult place to be in, despite how much trash I talk on this show. I'm glad it's resolved and behind me.
Yeah. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about new rules from the Biden administration when it comes to migrants trying to travel to the United States. We'll discuss that. We'll talk about the Image Awards. We'll discuss that and lots more on today's show. Plus, the guy who killed Nipsey Hussle, 60 years in prison. We'll give you the details on that case as well. So lots to break down. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Next on Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. Listen to this. Women of color are starting 90% of the businesses in this country. That's the good news. The bad news, as a rule, we're not making nearly as much as everyone else. But joining us on the next Get Wealthy episode is Betty Hines. She's a business strategist, and she's showing women how to elevate other women.
I don't like to say this openly, but we're getting better at it. Women struggle with collaborating with each other. And for that reason, one of the things that I demonstrate in the sessions that I have is that you can go further together if you collaborate.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. An hour of living history with Dr. Richard Mariba Kelsey, thinker, builder, author, and one of the most important and impactful elders in the African American community. He reflects on his full and rich life and shares his incomparable wisdom about our past, present, and future.
African genius is saying that my uncle was a genius, my brother was a genius, my neighbor was a genius. I think we ought to drill that in ourselves and move ahead rather than believing that I got it.
That's next on the Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
This is Diala Riddle.
What's up, y'all? I'm Will Packer.
I'm Chrisette Michelle.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, a couple of announcements today out of the Biden administration. First, we'll deal with this issue when it comes to migrant workers. What they have done is made some changes to those who are seeking asylum. The rule is going to apply to migrants traveling through their countries to other countries to the U.S.-Mexican border. So what's going to happen is there are going to be some exceptions as well. Joining us now is Gerline Joseph, founder of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. I'm glad to have you here. So can you explain to us exactly what are these new rules, how they're going to impact black and brown migrants?
Thank you so much for having me once again. The reality is with the new policies, the new rules are creating extreme barriers for people seeking asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border specifically. And when it comes to black, brown, poor, indigenous, LGBTQAI members, we are extremely worried because they will be forced to ask for asylum in another country during their journey prior to coming to the U.S.-Mexico to ask for asylum. And even before we delve into more details, we want people to understand that seeking asylum is the legal and right thing for people who are fleeing extreme danger, political turmoil, gang violence, etc., to come and be able to ask for asylum. So with that in mind, we are pushing back, saying we must allow people to come and ask for asylum, not using policies that are put in place as deterrent. And not only that, using policies that were created by Trump and Stephen Miller.
So, obviously, this has been portrayed as Biden and the administration cracking down on the border and cracking down on illegal immigration.
Yes, so it is very sad, honestly, to see the narrative that's being used. To say somebody who comes and asks for asylum is doing something illegal, it is absolutely false. Again, this is the right to come and ask for asylum. Both U.S. and international laws allow for that, and we are seeing falling into the narrative of the right that is portraying people coming to seek asylum as, the former president mentioned them as criminals and rapists, and not that, without centering the humanity of black and brown folks seeking asylum that are fleeing political turmoil, that are coming from Haiti, or LGBTQI from Jamaica, fleeing extreme conditions, traversing 11 borders to come and ask for asylum. What this regulation is saying is that if you flee Jamaica as an LGBTQI plus person, if you flee Haiti with the current political turmoil and gang violence, you should seek asylum in Nicaragua, when at the same time people are fleeing Nicaragua coming and ask for asylum. So that's why we continue to make sure we educate people about what asylum is and how people will be impacted by the new policies, specifically when it comes to black people.
Questions from our panel. Rebecca, you're first.
Sure. So I'm not considered an immigrant to this country, but as a Black American, how can I support Black immigrants in their plight, and even support those who are trying to seek asylum? What type of information would you give to people like me with how we could be supportive?
Thank you so much, sister, for saying that, because where we are standing, we are calling for unity of the Black diaspora. Understanding that your ancestors and my ancestors were on the same boat, probably just being sold to a different master in maybe South Carolina, and mine ended up in Haiti. Understanding that reality, our shared history, our shared understanding, how do we come as one and say we are standing for one another? We are going to make sure that we move the scarcity mentality, the divide and conquer mentality that they continue to put in our community. As a Black American myself, a Haitian American, it is imperative that we come together and support migrants especially Black migrants from the Caribbean and coming from many different in Africa, from Cameroon, from Mauritania. Right now, we are calling on President Biden to provide temporary protected status for Cameroon. They have done so for Haiti. They have done so for Ethiopia. We must continue to center the realities in the lives of Black people in search of protection and safety. And we must come together as a united front to welcome them with dignity.
Robert?
Bonsoir, Mademoiselle. I did have a question about just the unmitigated gall of the U.S. and the Biden administration, particularly with a Caribbean American, Kamala Harris being the border czar, a Haitian American, Karine Jean-Pierre being the communications director, the diversity that they talk about. However, they are still keeping the Trump era policies when it comes to immigration and doubling down on them, particularly given the 200-year history of America meddling in the affairs of Haiti within their hegemonic sphere of influence and very much being responsible for the majority of the political dystopia that has descended upon there. What can be done politically here to ensure that the Biden administration abides by their campaign promises to help the Haitian people when in reality all we've seen is horses and whips on the border and an increasingly draconian policy towards Haitian immigration?
Thank you so much, brother, for sharing that. That is the reality. And making sure people understand the history between Haiti and the United States, how the United States continues to meddle, and how U.S. foreign policies continues to plunge Haiti into an abyss that we see right now. And we are calling for united front again to make sure that U.S. foreign policies don't continue to meddle in a very negative ways in the affairs of Haiti. And as you mentioned, we all watched in 2021 September, how the United States responded to Black people. And the response was specifically because we had Black people at the border. And the whip that we saw was the reality. And that treatment continues because I will tell you right now that 21,000 people have been deported under the Biden administration. Yes, we applaud the administration for having and really uplifting people like Karine Jean-Pierre, who is also Haitian American, the vice president, whose father is from Jamaica. And we really want to make sure that equity is in all aspects of that, and making sure that we center the lives of Black migrants specifically. And as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, understand the impact of the Haitian Revolution, the impact of what the contribution of Haiti and the Haitian people continue to make in the United States. So it is imperative that we look at those policies, that we ask the Biden administration, we ask Congress, we ask the elected officials to make sure that foreign policies toward Haiti are centered into the well-being of Haiti and the Haitian people, so they don't have to flee. They don't have to come to the border. And I can tell you that all the people that I talked to, none of them said we woke up today and we just wanted to leave. They leave because they have no choice. But if given the choice, they want to stay in their home. That is why we call on the U.S. government to be a true friend to Haiti for once and for all by supporting infrastructure, by supporting sustainable infrastructure in Haiti to help people with proper road, agriculture, education, hospital, healthcare, so people don't have to flee. But when home is in the mouth of a shark, people have no choice but to flee. So the policies that are being put in place cannot be deterrent policies. They have to be finding a way to welcome people, especially Haitians in other majority Black countries, with dignity.
Scott?
Yeah, but I hear you, and you are a terrific advocate of the Haitian immigration issue, but it's not happening. Not happening under Biden and not happening under Trump. So let me ask you this. What are the three things that need to happen to fix this problem, right? And why is it that the Biden administration won't do it, in your opinion?
I think the first thing we need to look into is the root causes of Haitian migration. And that is something that the Biden administration is refusing, honestly, to really touch on. We are seeing them talking about root causes of migration from other countries, but the refusal to address root causes of migration I would say forced migration of Haitian is not something they are willing to do. And I can only think because, of course, the relationship between Haiti and the United States, the fact that we are the first Black Republic, all of those things continues to be, a factor in how the United States view and deals with Haiti. That is why we are asking again for policies that are fair, that are able to welcome people with dignity. But unless and until we address the root causes of migration of Haitians, which is political instability, which is impacted by U.S. foreign policies, which is impacted by the core group, which is impacted by many international forces, and include deportations of Haitians that we call external violence. So we are seeing a combination of internal violence in the country of Haiti and also external violence by deportation of Haitians who come and flee and ask for asylum being sent back to Haiti. So we really have to look into those different aspects and address those with Congress, address those with the political, with the elected officials, and really put the Biden administration to do the right thing.
Yeah, but what are the top 3 things that need to happen? What 3 changes would you ask for that are doable and would fix this issue?
The top 3 things, again, as I mentioned previously, is addressing root causes of migration. That's number 1. Number 2, highlighting the fact that U.S. policies play a big role in the destabilization of Haiti, forcing people to flee. Number 3 is allowing people to come and ask for asylum, providing a safe pathway for Haitians in other majority Black countries to ask for asylum. So we have been in communications, we have been pushing those through, but if we are able to address those 3 pieces, I guarantee you that we will find some more solutions.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, then. Well, look, we certainly appreciate it. Jolene, thanks a lot. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Folks, we come back. We'll talk about Vice President Kamala Harris being at Bowie State today, talking about a new plan to help homeowners when it comes to purchasing a home. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network live here in Los Angeles. Of course, download our app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Watch us on Amazon News. If you got the Amazon Fire TV or the stick, simply go to Amazon News. You can see us right along with the other cable networks like CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. We'll be right back. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Most people think that these television shows that tell stories about who we are as Black men, and then they paint these monolithic portraits of us. They think that they're being painted by white people. And I gotta tell you, there are a whole bunch of black folk that are the creators, the head writers, the directors of all of these shows, and that are still painting us as monoliths. People don't really want to have this conversation.
No, they don't.
Hi, I'm Teresa Griffin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Parents in New York City say that their child has endured unimaginable racism in that particular school system, at elementary school. The Winbush family claims their 10-year-old daughter and 5-year-old son have endured abuse from classmates at Manhattan's Peck Slip School. They have filed a federal lawsuit alleging abuse, including death threats, racial slurs, and being spat on, all fostered by the racially hostile environment enabled by school officials. Joining me now is Amos Winbush III, their attorneys Lance Clark and Philip Hamilton, managing partners of Hamilton Clark. Glad to have all of you on the show. So, Amos, walk us through, when did this abuse start for your children?
Thanks for having us. It started in pre-K when my daughter was 4, so 2016, 2017.
How have you documented this abuse?
We have communicated with teachers, principals, assistant principals, superintendents, executive superintendents, the DOE, the district. We've even reached out to local officials, our city council person, as well as New York State senators, 2 of them, to be exact. And we have received very little, if any, true movement. It's almost as if the communications that we send fall into this black hole that will never ever see the day of light.
This is somewhat strange, Lance and Philip, because you often see schools talk about having a zero tolerance policy when it comes to these sort of things.
I mean, Roland, it's strange yet not in any way surprising, right? Sometimes these policies, as we know full well, are what we would amount to as lip service, right? And I think in this instance, with the allegations that we put forth in the complaint, that is very much so true in many respects, even with regards to the week that we filed this matter. It was the Respect for All week in regards to the New York City Department of Education, but we have very thoroughly put forth the fact that over the course of the years that Mr. Winbush and his wife have had to endure their children not being respected, disrespected, physically assaulted, spat on, psychologically, engaged with in regards to a lot of trauma that they've had to suffer. And it's ultimately not okay. And I think a large part of this lawsuit is undermining a lot of just that lip service that we see paid, whether it's to diversity and inclusion initiatives or any other realm that is supposed to just essentially have us as a people back off, that to the extent that we don't fight, we're not ultimately able to resolve a lot of the underlying issues that we see within this complaint. So, lip service, at this point, it's just not going to be enough. We're demanding results.
Questions from my panel. I will start with you, Scott.
Hey, you all. Scott Bolden here. As I read the complaint, you came in on the 42-1983 and on the Title VI because they get federal funds. But the complaint reads like a book of abuse, basically. I'm actually really surprised that the school system and the school itself has not engaged you, actually, has not tried to resolve these issues, has not had a zero tolerance policy. Are you arguing that they just completely ignored every one of these complaints and never sat down with the parents, didn't sit down with the lawyers, and they basically invited this lawsuit. As I read the complaint and the PR on this, that's kind of what I pulled out of it. But is that totally accurate?
Well, I wouldn't say they invited the lawsuit, but we did reach out to them. And you would think that if you ran a school district or if you ran a school and they're little kids that we're talking about, and lawyers contact you and say, you know, we have a system of abuse and we have these allegations of children being abused, their lives being threatened, spit on, discriminated against, that someone would say, hold on, let's look into these allegations. This is serious. But when we emailed the school district, not one person got back in contact with us. Not one person wrote us back. Not one person said, oh my Lord, is this really happening? What can we do to help? Nothing.
Or even a mediation or a conference with the lawyers, but let alone without the lawyers. Your client certainly has endured this for several years. I mean, I just can't believe that a school system, a public school system that gets federal funds, wouldn't want to meet with the parents, try to work this out with the parents before the lawyers got involved. Actually, it's in their best social, political, and business interests as a school to resolve these issues.
I think we all share the same shock.
Absolutely.
Because we said the same thing internally. Like, what are these guys doing? At least, shoot us an email. Send a pigeon with a note on it. Do something. Let us know that you actually care about these kids who we are saying, and we have documented evidence that have been abused, systematically brainwashed to think that these things are not happening to them. It's all in your head. It's not racism. It's okay. When we all know, and that train is never late. That train is never, ever late. And they will have you thinking that this is all in your head. And then when you try to do something about it, this brother has been fighting for the dignity of his family for a very, very long time. It's bigger than his family. How many brown kids are going through this and dealing with this, but they don't have the voice that
exactly.
They don't have.
But here's one last question, if Roland will let me, and that's this. Here's $1 million question. If all that's happening over the years with the kids, and I think it's awful, quite frankly. I would have been trying to hurt somebody over the years. Why not put the kids in another school? Why not avoid this type of abuse and just put them in a safer environment, a better environment, a more enriching environment for their education and their mental welfare? Because that's going to be the lawsuit begs that question.
My wife and I asked ourselves that question every single day, and the answer was really simple. At the end of the day, when you've reached out to the school district and you've reached out to the DOE, and we received a reply back from the DOE, the lady who actually runs our district, and she says to me that what I described to her, this is a white lady, doesn't sound like racism. Now, what started that conversation to reach out to the DOE was a little white girl telling my daughter that her skin was brown, and that meant that it was dirty, and that she needed to take a bath and scrub it so that it could be clean and white like hers. So removing our kids from a school into another school under the exact same Department of Education, under the exact same system, doesn't solve anything. If anything, it adds trauma upon trauma, because we're going to remove her out of a situation where we know what's going on into another situation where we would then have to figure it out. And the damage of figuring it out over and over and over again, we, number one, didn't want to do. And number two, Black families for hundreds of years had to flee in the dead of night to run away from racism, bigotry, and violence. And we did not want to create a timestamp in our children's minds that they did something wrong, that their skin color was wrong, and that every time that it is approached to them, that it's time for them to pick up and run. There's literally nowhere to go. And they knew that. The school officials knew that. And most importantly that we figured in this whole process is that they made the calculation that Black people are emotional. So if Black people are emotional, we can coddle them for a period of time, let them know that we hear them, but not do any action to prevent it from happening over and over and over again. So when enough becomes enough, then it's enough.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Rebecca, Rebecca, your question.
So, like Scott, I read through the complaint, and I had the same question as Scott. What I read, it was very horrible. The emotional and psychological violence that happened to your children. So first, I'm sorry that happened. But I had the same question as Scott. Why, keep your children in that type of situation when there is violence and harm that's actively happening to them? And I understand your perspective of enough is enough, because my family, fled from the South and the Northern migration. My family has that story as well. So I'm going to just broaden this out. What do you want out of this? Do you want your kids to be able to return or to stay if they're still within that school system? Do you want folks fired? Do you want there to be some oversight from like the state of New York education, a Department of Education? What do you want in all of this?
First, I want to say that it's not just our kids. We have friends we live in Lower Manhattan. We've lived here for 18 years. We are active participants in the community. It's not just our kids. It's not just in this school. It is a systemic problem across New York City. That's the first thing. So regardless of where we place our kids, they're going to experience this because the indifference that's presented by the adults in the room to these problems allow it to fester and have roots. What we want is, number one, accountability, and we want transparency. The basic things that human beings want is to be seen, heard, and valued, right? So at the end of the day, when you have a complaint, it should be a transparent process to submit that complaint, how that complaint is investigated, what the results of that complaint actually is. We believe that there should be a rating system within schools and within school districts so that we see what's happening with our kids and we can have an open and honest conversation around racism, bigotry, violence, and bullying, and how officials, both on the school level, the district level, and the DOE level, aren't doing anything to address it. New York State, New York City has stated that racism is a public health crisis. If that's the case, why aren't we doing anything about it?
Robert, real quick, final question.
Well, that kind of actually rolls into my question, which is, is there a pattern and practice of this in the district? Have you spoken to other parents that this has happened to? Have you thought about adding other parents to the lawsuit if this is a systemic problem and other people are experiencing the same thing?
Robert, I think that's an amazing question. One thing that prevents a lot of people of color from coming forward is the fear of retaliation. The fear of retaliation at their jobs, the fear of retaliation of friends and people in the neighborhood. So the question isn't if it's happening. The question is, we know that it's happening. Why isn't anyone solving it? Yes, we have several friends who removed their kids from our school into a neighboring school. And the exact same thing is happening to their 6-year-old son that happened at Peck Slip. It is a systemic problem. And what they are teaching these kids, especially little white boys and white girls, is that they're able to weaponize their whiteness very early on. And they play that to great effect. And our kids are the ones who are bearing the brunt of it. Our son and our daughter, they've literally shrunken themselves, where other kids, other white boys and girls are taught to take up room. And as a parent, it breaks our hearts because we recognize that this is a behavior that they themselves learned for self-preservation, to shrink, to not be seen, so that anything that could happen, they will try not to make it be their fault. But it's never their fault. They can't change their skin color.
All right, then. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you, Roland. Take care.
Thanks, Roland.
Thanks a lot. We come back, we're going to talk about a new program helping homeowners get their first home and cover some other news of the day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, including the NAACP Image Awards. Did we win for our Outstanding News Special? I'll tell you when we come back. Back in a moment. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, a relationship that we have to have. We're often afraid of it and don't like to talk about it. That's right, we're talking about our relationship with money. And here's the thing, our relationship with money oftentimes determines whether we have it or not.
The truth is you cannot change what you will not acknowledge.
Balancing your relationship with your pocketbook. That's next on A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett.
Yo, it's your man Deion Cole from Blackish, and you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Stay woke.
Vice President Kamala Harris was at Bowie State University today in Maryland, where the Biden administration unveiled a new plan to help low-income and first-time home buyers save on mortgage insurance costs. She announced in Maryland this new incentive, about $800 per homeowner, is an attempt to help ease the affordability concerns of potential home buyers, specifically those who are first-timers. Here's her speaking at Bowie State.
On average, homeowners will pay at least $800 a year less on their mortgage, and that's $800 more in your pocket for household expenses. We expect that with this new approach, more than 850,000 Americans a year will benefit from this discount. Many will be first-time home buyers.
Folks, on March 20th. Wisconsin Supreme Court sets up a dream match for Democrats. Last night was the election, and Democrats turned out in huge numbers. And they chose Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Janet Protasewicz and ex-Justice Republican Dan Kelly They were the top 2 vote getters in Tuesday's primary. Now, right now, Republicans control the Wisconsin Supreme Court by a 4-3 majority. If the Democrat wins, they will flip the court that she has run on abortion rights. She's run on saying the gerrymandered maps in Wisconsin are illegal. Republicans are scared to death that if she wins, that means Democrats will overturn gerrymandered maps as well as the law against abortion there. They will face off in the general election. Again, conservatives have held a majority of the Supreme Court for the last 15 years. It is locked in Republican rule. They have taken votes away from, they've taken away power from the Democratic governor there as well. This, Robert Patillo, is a huge, 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 huge race because what it speaks to is, again, how do you change your politics when you change the Supreme Court? We saw what happened in North Carolina when Democrats got a majority of that Supreme Court and were able to rule against racial gerrymandering and other issues. This is where the courts matter on the state level.
Yeah, Democrats have failed to compete on the state level for many of these positions for years. If you look at what happened in North Carolina, even if you look at former Chief Justice Leah Ward Sears on the Supreme Court here in Georgia, these races are crucial, and we have to start playing on this battlefield across the country. We have to start putting money into state and local races, state and local judiciary races, because when these people come back to try to steal the election again, to have the next January 6th, this time more well planned out and well thought out, with better executions, and they already had one dry run, it's going to be state Supreme Courts deciding many of these electoral cases. It's going to be local elected officials making decisions on these voting patterns, etc. So it's crucial for us to pay attention to these races because they've been working on these races for decades now, and they hold a severe majority in state houses across the country and judicial appointments in state Supreme Courts nationwide.
Rebecca, you've got these conservative billionaires. They poured a bunch of money into this race for Dan Kelly. But here's the thing. Dan Kelly lost in 2020 by 11 points. And in fact, what happened here was Democrats were actually pouring money against the other Republican to knock her off the ballot. And many Republicans were saying if she loses the primary, guess what? They're going to lose in the general. They're scared to death. This could very well be one of the costliest state Supreme Court races in American history.
Yeah, to Robert's point, the Supreme Court races are the races that we really need to pay attention to. Like we even saw last year what happened in Ohio when folks didn't take those Supreme Court races very seriously. And then even to Scott's point, what happened in North Carolina, you have now the North Carolina Supreme Court saying that they're going to go back to previous cases that was determined by the previous court, which was a Democrat majority court. And they're going to try to undo voting rights in North Carolina. And so I think it's very important for folks who are involved, whether it's the parties or whoever, community groups have to make sure that people understand why these races that are off races or off cycle races, why they're so important, why they and how they impact people's daily lives. The Supreme Court in Wisconsin is probably going to determine what labor union rights is going to look like in Wisconsin. So it's going to be a very important race. I believe the general election is now in April, so I hope many people will turn out for it.
Scott, when we talk about these state races, again, the Supreme Court has already made it clear, hey, stare decisis, what the hell, we don't care. So at the end of the day, look, if you take control, you can undo a lot of the damage that conservatives have inflicted. And, of course, there's a fear that the same thing. Right now, Democrats have a 4-3 majority on the North Carolina court. Had Sherrod Beasley not lost by 400 votes, it will be a Democratic majority of 6-1. But, again, hey, if you're Democrats, if they play politics, what the hell? Why can't you?
All politics is local politics. Let me take it a step further for your listening audience, right? State Supreme Court justices, they're running for office. So this is a political office until you get to the judiciary. But whether it's Wisconsin or any other state, the state Supreme Courts, Republicans love state rights, okay? So now we're going to go to state rights. These Supreme Court justices pick and choose what cases they want to hear that are coming from the Court of Appeals or even sometimes at the state court level. And so they can make a decision if it's 4-3 Democrats They can make decisions on abortion rights, voting rights, civil rights, gun rights, abortion rights, a woman's right, gender rights, if you will, queer rights. I mean, they can run the gambit. And here's another thing, Roland. Lawyers decide which cases to take up to the state Supreme Court based on who's sitting in that Supreme Court. If they know they got a shot with 4 or 5 Democratic justices, right? The voting rights and the voter reapportionment, they can choose to take up there and have a fairer election, redraw the maps so that Democrats, fairly, Democrats have a more fair shot at it. It is one of the most powerful courts in the land, notwithstanding the federal and the U.S. Supreme Court. You can control which states Democrats can control by putting a 4-3 or 5-2 margin up there. It's vitally important. If you're a Democrat, you need to be sending money to the state justice race, right? Because it'll have ramifications on the politics of Wisconsin. And once you get Wisconsin and you got North Carolina, now Democrats can get real smart and start taking some of these other state offices that are going to control voting rights vis-a-vis the president and the ability to determine who the delegates are in the next presidential election. We should take that for granted. You can't take that for granted anymore. I'm sending money to Wisconsin tomorrow. Seriously. Makes sense.
Folks, history made last night in Virginia when Jennifer McClellan defeated Republican Leon Benjamin in the Tuesday special election to fill the seat of the late Donald McEachin, who died in November. McClellan was a state senator and corporate lawyer. She was declared the winner over Republican Leon Benjamin, a pastor. Within the first 30 minutes of the polls closing, she ended up getting 70% of the vote. Again, first black woman to represent Virginia in Congress. So congratulations to her. This story out of Montgomery, Alabama is pretty crazy. Leaked audio surfaces of Montgomery, Alabama's first black mayor, Stephen Reed, making some pretty disparaging remarks about the black vote. The 2-partial audio clip released Monday of a 2020 conversation Reed had with Charles Lee, the director of the nonprofit organization That's My Child. In the audio, Reed makes profanity-filled remarks about race, investment in the city, and apathy towards Maxwell Gunther Air Force Base. Now, again, this is not being fully authenticated. Was it chopped up? Was it edited? But here is some of what was said.
I can come smile. I don't fucking have to do no goddamn work. Okay? I don't have to do no work systemically, and I'm going to be fine. And guess what? I will always get 38 to 45% of the white vote. If I get 30 to 45% of the white vote, I don't fucking have to damn get the black vote I got this past election. I'll fucking win. You got a black city, that's great. You can have all black everything. And guess what? You won't have green nothing. The white money thinks that you are looking after their shit, they will take their shit to Prattville, they will take their shit to Pike Road, and you won't have shit. I'm not going to have one single fucking conversation with the governor or lieutenant governor about Maxwell Gunther. Because guess what? I don't know nobody who wants to Maxwell Gunther, except for people I have to meet as a mayor. I don't know nobody there. So if that shit is so important to y'all, then y'all better do some shit that's important to me.
Well, Mayor Reed not happy at all with this, and he says he plans on suing.
Came out of an interest in personal gain. He came to shake me down. He came to extort the mayor of this city, at which on a day when tension was already as high as it could be, it went even higher. And it went higher because I was offended that others in the community who look at him as a role model and as someone who had been a leader would take that opportunity. The pain of a family, not only in Minneapolis, but the pain of a community across this country, to try to extort, shake down, or get money out of the city, which he's not from, but the city that has embraced him and his charity. And so what you hear in splices of the manipulated audio is an angry person who is frustrated and is very, very displeased, to put it mildly, with someone who has gotten the confidence of many leaders in this community asking about where his money is.
Reed says his remarks were made in anger and taken out of context. He apologized for the language that was used. When we come back, we'll talk with Ron Daniels about his upcoming conference in Baltimore, as well as our Tech Talk segment. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. An hour of living history with Dr. Richard Mariba Kelsey, thinker, builder, author, and one of the most important and impactful elders in the African American community. He reflects on his full and rich life and shares his incomparable wisdom about our past, present, and future.
African genius is saying that my uncle was a genius, my brother was a genius, my neighbor was a genius. I think we ought to drill that in ourselves and move ahead rather than believing that I got it.
That's next on the Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Shantae Moore.
Hi, I'm BB Winans.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Rihanna Mosley was last seen at her Spokane, Washington home on February 15th. The 11-year-old is 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighs 95 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Rihanna Mosley is urged to call the Spokane, Washington Police Department at 509-625-4100, 509-625-4100. All right, folks, we're here in Los Angeles. This week is the 54th NAACP Image Awards, and what they've done is they've actually been giving out awards virtually last night, 2 nights ago. Last night, you have the pre-dinner, which is on Friday, and then of course on Saturday you actually have the Image Awards, which is airing on BET. Last night, you had big winners. Jennifer Hudson won for Best Host for her show. And in the Outstanding News special, we lost out to the Michelle Obama special with Robin Roberts on ABC. Pull up the slate piece of the night 2 winners, folks. So you see it right there. Those are your literary winners. Some of the winners there. You can go to the next one as well. Trevor Noah won for Outstanding Variety or Game Show with The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. As I said, we lost out to ABC and Michelle Obama and Robin Roberts. Outstanding News category, you see Viola Davis wins an Outstanding Literary Work. You also have some of the other winners as well. And so one of the winners actually posted the video. Do y'all have the video? You should have it, of her reaction in winning in one of the literary categories. So roll it.
Are the nominees for Outstanding Literary Work Instruction. Black Joy, Resilience and Restoration, Cooking from the Spirit.
Whoa, good job, Miss Tab.
Eat Plant-Based, 91 Vegan Recipes.
Even Pinky.
Pinky Cole. Homecoming.
Even
Overcome fear and trauma to reclaim your whole authentic self. Tema Bryant. The 5 Principles. A revolutionary path to health, inner wealth, and knowledge of self. No Ebola. And the winner for Outstanding Literary Work Instructional is Black.
Oh my God, man.
Oh my God!
What? Oh my God.
Oh my God!
Go, baby.
As I said, you have, again, tonight there's a symposium taking place. I'm going to be participating in that. Then, of course, you have the additional virtual shows that are going on. And then, of course, the pre-show dinner on Friday night. We'll be there broadcasting as well. And then, of course, on Saturday, the awards show, we'll be broadcasting live from the red carpet as well. And so definitely looking forward to that as the NAACP is saluting black excellence across the board. I'm going to ask Rebecca this because I want to start with you. One of the things that whenever these award shows happen, Rebecca, we have, Oscars so white, people complaining about not getting enough, putting the Golden Globes, not getting enough SAG Awards. But the reality is this here. We know how white privilege works. We know how racism works. And this is also why we as African Americans have got to look at our award shows as just as important or more so than the SAG Awards, the Emmys, and the Oscars. But the reality is we know that there are people who put more precedence, who put more emphasis on the bigger, more established awards. And so this is something that we actually have to be thinking about ourselves, how we value ourselves and our own shows.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole idea of someone else's or white folks' ice is somehow colder than our own ice. I mean, the NAACP Image Awards, I mean, that's a place to show up to. That is our thing. That is for us. That's being recognized for us, by us, and quite frankly, that is more important than trying to convince a society, a mainstream society, to accept us, to understand us, and to celebrate us. And you're right, we have to celebrate ourselves. We have to celebrate each other. And to me, that's a lot more important than other people accepting us. So I'm so excited that this show was nominated for the NAACP Image Award for that special election night coverage. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of that night as well, just like Scott and Robert as well. But yeah, it's exciting. This is for us. This is our show. This is our award. So it's a privilege. It would be a privilege to be in the building.
Well, and look, here's my whole deal, Scott. You put Michelle Obama or Barack Obama in the category. It's just like if you're doing a documentary for the Oscars and dealing with the Holocaust, like you're gonna win. Now, somebody may say, "Oh my God, Roland." No, the fact of the matter is, many folks in Hollywood said that. I remember when Spike had 4 little girls look, same thing happened. And so I know that look, I won TV One's first 2 Image Awards, my interviews with Senator Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. But the bottom line is here, I'll put up our election night coverage over anything ABC does, even with Michelle Obama, because I also understand what is truly for the culture.
Yeah, we got to tell our stories. And one of the things I like about our show is that we tell our stories daily and nightly, and there's no other show out there doing that. I understand the interview with Michelle Obama and what have you, but I will tell you, our election night coverage on TV One, when Trump won, was just an incredible night of loss for many of us, but it was an incredible night at that restaurant, and Kathy was there and a whole slew of folks, and we were up until maybe 1 or 2, maybe 12 or 1, lamenting our losses at Democrats.
No, it was 2. It was 2. It was 2.
Yeah, it was 2 o'clock. But that show was awesome. I had never seen a show in a restaurant with a live audience where we were moving people in and out, and the interviews were fresh, the numbers were coming in, and we had dead spot-on number coverage like any other network, and I wouldn't expect anything less. And I'm not blowing smoke at you, but that gave a lot of folks like me and others opportunities to provide commentary that you're not going to get anywhere else. And so for me, the NAACP Image Awards, Roland, you live that every day. And you live it every night, and you know what? There'll be other opportunities, but know that there is no other black voice talking about black issues, unapologetically black on a nightly basis, but the Roland Martin Show. And so we live with that. We own that, and we're going to keep telling our stories, and there'll be other awards to receive, I promise you.
Oh, yeah. Look, I'm not worried about it. I did say this here, because this was our first nomination. I did make clear that we didn't get nominated this year. I was going to enter again, because what was offending me was seeing all these corporate outlets being nominated and nobody black owned. And so I told my team, I'm not going to waste my damn money, because first of all, the nominations ain't cheap. I think it's like $750 per nomination. And I said, I ain't going to be wasting more money. So they lucky we got nominated this year. But I made it clear I wasn't going to do it again, because, look, we're going to do the work regardless. And look, our audience, they are certainly rewarding us in terms of what we do. And so we want to thank them. And so we're going to keep doing what we do. And like I make it perfectly clear, we do black every day. I love people talking about, oh, my God, it's Black History Month. I'm like, look, I understand it's Black History Month, but we do black every single day. So it ain't like 28 days, all of a sudden we realize black folks exist. It's every single day. And this is what I've also said, every black paper I've run, also at TV One. Can't no other network out-black us.
That's right. That's right. And that's our space.
It ain't going to work.
It's great to have that space. Ain't nothing wrong with having that space. And people who keep talking about you and your days at CNN and otherwise, gosh, this is black-owned media at its best, right? And it's working. And it is high level. It's excellent. It has excellence every day your team shows up. And there's no place else on earth doing what you're doing as an entrepreneur, not just as a journalist, but as an entrepreneur. I understand both of those worlds as counsel to NMPA, and there's nobody else is doing this. And you chose this space to branch out in. You've been at this a long time, but I remember the TV One that you chose this and you promoted, said, we're getting ready to do something special with the Black Star Network and these deals that we're doing and stuff. And you leaped out on faith as an entrepreneur, and it's working. It's working. I wish you'd get us back in the studio, but that's another discussion.
Oh, no, look, we're going to do that. We ease it back into it. So, we'll make that happen. That's not a problem. But that's definitely going to happen. But it's easy to cut you off when you're not in the studio.
And I want my jacket.
It's easy.
A jacket. You know that you get everybody gets a jacket but me. Guess Kappas can't get a jacket. Kappas can't get a jacket. That's wrong. That's wrong. People stop me in the airport.
Scott,
what's wrong with the road?
Scott.
That's that, man, he don't like me.
Scott,
he don't like me. He's jealous of me.
Scott, that's not the problem. We didn't order any small sizes. You walked into that one. You walked into that one. All right, y'all. I gotta go to a break. We'll be. Yeah, you walked right into that one. That's right. You can't blame that one on me. I'm just saying, you kept going. I'm like, I got something for you. All right, y'all. I gotta go to a break. We come back. Ron Daniels. To it. Ron Daniels is next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. And yes, I'm real black. I got my shoes off. Go to the wide shot. I got my shoes off doing the show. And that's what you can do when you own it. I'll be back.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hi, I'm Vivian Green.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Let's go. All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. The State of the Black World Conference is taking place in Baltimore. Folks from all across the country and other parts of the world are going to be there. This is the Institute of the Black World's 21st Century State of the Black World Conference. 5-day conference will feature working sessions to assess the condition of black people in the U.S. and globally. Ron Daniels is the president of the Institute. He joins us right now. The conference is taking place April 17th to April 23rd. So, Ron, what's the plans?
Well, the plan is to have a plan. In other words, what we typically do at the State of the Black World Conferences is not only look at analysis, but we also try to have sessions where people have an opportunity to lay out solutions. So we have these 8 issue areas that you mentioned. We're going to talk about the environment. We're going to talk about crime and gun violence in the community, socially responsible entrepreneurship, questions that relate to gentrification, 8 areas altogether. There'll be one on hip hop and its contributions to the Black freedom struggle. And what we do is we expose people to all of these areas. Like you, we don't want people just to come in, moan and groan and complain, but also to bring models. What are you doing that is positive that we can use and share with other people to take back with them when they go? What's unique about this one, we've done 5 of these. This is the crown jewel. This is global. People are coming from all over the world for this conference. In fact, I'm delighted to announce today that Prime Minister Adu from Ghana is confirmed. He will be here. And there are several other heads of state that will be in Baltimore for the conference as well. And so the goal, again, is to meet, to interface, to collaborate, to network, to share with each other in a Black space, just like you're talking about. We create a Black space in terms of spirit and culture, and to analyze where we are. And the theme captures it all. Global Africans rising, empowerment, reparations, and healing. Reparations will be one of the key thematic areas that will run throughout the conference, because reparations is exploding all over the world in a way that is challenging these systems of white supremacy, and we're making progress both in this country and throughout the world. So that's the plan. And we want people to go to ibw21.org, ibw21.org. And of course, we're hoping that you're going to agree to be the co-moderator with Dr. Julianne Malvo, as you did with the town hall meeting we had back in November, because we're going to have a global town hall meeting with people to discuss not only what's happening here in the U.S., but what's happening throughout the world.
Last conference was held. How do you track what changed, what was actually done, who actually accomplished what? How do you do that?
Well, we do it by having some of the same people who are facilitators facilitate the sessions again, and bring people together to share what the outcomes have been in their respective communities. And proactively, in some of these areas, we already have a sense of what we want to do. We want to share with people. If you take the area for gentrification, for example, we say that there's a state of emergency in Black America around gentrification, displacing Black people and Black culture. So what we want to do and have done is to begin to bring together activists, policymakers, and so forth who are dealing with this issue all across the country, who have not been meeting with each other, who have not known each other, to come together to begin to talk about how they can collectively move together. In that regard, we want to create a national network, and we want to have a national resource center, and that resource center can provide technical assistance for people who are engaging in the struggle across the country. Similarly, in the area of police violence, Pastor Mike McBride and a number of people who are doing work in this area and doing it impeccably. We want to gather as many people. As you well know, this is an area that is just cutting at the heart of Black people all across this country, bringing people together to figure out how we can best deal with this question of internal violence and fratricide. And there are people who are doing it and doing it relatively successful. How do we interface with each other and do that more consistently, both in terms of what we want to do internally, what we want private institutions to do, and what it is that we demand of government in order to help cure and heal our communities. So in area after area after area, that is the approach that we use. In fact, one of the things that we do is we have people, everybody will get a chance to see what's happening in each of these 8 areas. But on Saturday, one of the unique features of the State of the Black World Conference is you only pick one area and you stay in that one area. You'll have 3 2.5-hour sessions. So you take a deeper, more qualitative dive into that issue. So even though people would like to pick a little over here, a little over there, and we know that, we ask you to pick only one area. You get a chance to see what everybody's doing in their area. You get a window. You see the issues that are being covered. But you stick in one area so that you have an opportunity to get a deeper dive. And then on Sunday, we have people come and they report out. We create what we call a declaration of intent. We don't claim that IBW in and of itself and by itself has the ability to implement all the things that are being talked about, but at least we get an idea of what is being proposed and what organizations may actually come together to help implement a particular part of it. It is an incredible experience, and of course, again, this one is really larger than ever before because we have, again, key leaders from all across the world coming to interface with Black people. There's a global Black experience.
Rebecca, your question for Ron.
Sure, Dr. Daniels, in 2021, the Congress passed ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. It sent billions of dollars to the states that are now making its way to different Black communities that have to be spent by 2026. There are a lot of Black leaders across the country trying to figure out what to do with that money and how to move the Black community forward. Would you say that this conference coming up in April will help some of those communities and community leaders come up with a plan of the best way to use this capitalization to really move Black communities forward in this country?
I don't know if they were addressing that question specifically, but as it relates to water and climate change, not climate, and environmental justice, this is one of the areas in which some of those dollars are being allocated. And one of the issues, as you well know, is in places like Jackson, Mississippi, they're trying to figure out how to not get the money to the local communities, but to have those monies be stalled at the state. We will definitely be meeting to try to figure out how to challenge that kind of reemergence of states' rights that really creates a new kind of apartheid. So even though you've been starving already, you won't. There are ways in which they're trying to block those resources, from coming and flowing into those communities. So there will be those kinds of conversations that will be taking place.
Robert?
Thank you so much for all that you do and all the work that you put together thus far. What are going to be the efforts to finally hold Congress accountable for actually moving on many of these issues, whether it be the study committee on reparations or any of the other issues within the African diaspora? The Congressional Black Caucus, the largest caucus in Congress, it's the largest it's ever been. You have 50 plus members in the House, 2 United States senators. What is being done to force them to actually move in that?
Well, we don't see this conference specifically as trying to necessarily force the CBC to act. I would say that the CBC is exercising considerable influence. We're trying to, in fact, get not the CBC, but we're trying to get Biden to move on getting H.R. 40 enacted by executive order. And so that will be one of the things that we'll be talking about, is how we can amass greater energy around that particular issue. We will, in fact, have people like Latasha Brown and Melanie Campbell and others talk about how we more effectively utilize the black vote. We're in a scenario, quite frankly, where the black vote was responsible for blunting the so-called red tide. It was a black-led blue wave that did that. And of course, as Roland has talked about, and I agree, we will be talking about how we, in fact, create a greater culture of civic engagement and civic participation, so that our people are always ready for the, dare I say, the nonviolent march on ballot revolution, in order to not only hold the Congressional Black Caucus accountable, but in fact to continue to advance our agenda. One of the key issues at this point is, of course, we're facing the alt-right, raw, naked forces of white supremacy and white nationalism. Unfortunately, with the House being in the hands of these crazy MAGA mad people, it makes it very difficult for some of the things to move forward in the way that we would like. And yet we have to continue to raise the demand. We have to continue to raise issues like the Floyd criminal justice reform bill, like the John Lewis voting rights bill. These are things that actions can be taken on by Biden by executive action. But it is really reparations, H.R. 40, of all of these bills, which has the greatest potential to actually be up and running, because it's no longer a study bill. It is a bill to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans, which means that actual commission with a budget of $20 million can actually be doing the work. So we support all of these efforts, all of these actions. They will be, I'm sure, permeating throughout the conversations that we have at the conference. We anticipate several members of the CBC to be there, as well as mayors being there, people who are elected officials not only in the U.S. but around the world. And again, we'll be pushing these issues forward.
Ron.
All right, then, Ron. Well, look, we certainly No, Scott, you can't ask a question, Scott, because you asked 3 questions in that education segment.
Who's counting?
You thought I forgot, huh? You thought I forgot. I don't forget nothing.
I thought you were asleep.
No, son. No.
Meet Scott.
I remember everything. Ron, tell people where to go. To get more information on the conference.
All roads lead to Baltimore. April 19th through the 23rd, and you go to ibw21.org. Discount registration is on now. It's going to be more after April 1st. All roads lead to Baltimore. And I want to meet Scott. I just recognize him. That brother, I like the way he rolls. So, Scott, let's hook up, man, and make the State of the Black World Conference a big deal,
Let's
brother.
do it,
One of the
man.
great
Let's
conferences in this era.
Yeah.
Love you, brother. And all of y'all.
Yeah. Give him one of your dashikis because he needs it. All right, Ron, I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate you.
Thanks a bunch. Y'all, TikTok is next. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show out here. Back in a moment.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson. What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, we talk about education. This is critically important for us, and the idea charter schools have a growing in popularity. Parents want more choices when it comes to their children. But what about a virtual charter school? My next guest is Adam Mangano, Chief Product Officer for Optima Ed from Naples, Florida. He currently lives in Las Vegas, and it's a virtual reality charter school, which is obviously a very interesting concept. So, Adam, glad to have you here. So explain to us this Optima Academy, a virtual reality charter school?
Absolutely. Roland, thank you so much for having me. Imagine our students being able to travel back in time or to travel to the moon. It's a profoundly more interesting experience for our students to learn conceptually. And so we've built a Web3 experience, which is on a social VR platform, where instead of being on the checkerboard of faces we call Zoom, students are together in community in the metaverse learning together. And we're running right now over 1,100 courses in the state of Florida, all tuition free for students to be able to access this incredible coursework. So we're really excited about giving more access to Black and brown students all over the country and expanding beyond Florida in the coming years.
And so walk us through this. How many students are currently involved in this virtual reality charter school?
Yep. So we have 200 students enrolled today, 2 of which are my own, 3rd and 4th grader. And you can imagine, Roland, Alexander doesn't become great without Aristotle coming into his home. And so the idea was that we could hack time and space and bring the very best teachers in the country to students in the comfort of their home. Some of your previous guests this evening have articulated the trouble that Black and brown students are having accessing incredible faculty, and this solves a big problem. There are huge barriers to community education, and you've seen over the course of the last couple of years, before the pandemic, we had about 3% of our Black families homeschooling. Now we have 16% of our Black families homeschooling, and we need a curriculum that is excellent, that will be able to be accessed by all of these families.
Questions from our panel. Let me start first with Robert.
You mentioned Florida. Ron DeSantis ain't going to try to come shut you down or anything, as you know. They don't really like Black folks learning too much stuff. So, but I think the idea of this is outstanding. Can you kind of talk about how you're working to get this into the hands of more families? Because I think this is an outstanding concept. How can we make sure more people know about this and the more people are able to participate?
Yeah, tremendous question. I think what's really critical here is that Black families understand that the entire internet is moving into 3 dimensions. And we have an opportunity right now to allow families to get access to this content. How do we offer a world-class education if we're going to put barriers up like cost, if we're going to put barriers up like geography? What we're able to do is take a world-class education. Augustine says, the world is a novel. If you stay in one place, you've only read one chapter. You know, how do you give a child in inner city Miami access to a world-class education without being able to take them all over the world? And up until this point, the ability to do that in an analog way has been price prohibitive. And we've been able to hack that with the power of immersive computing. So we, right now, we're able to deliver this completely free in the state of Florida because we've done a 900-page application with the state to have the curriculum approved. And we plan to expand to other states now that we've been able to launch successfully in Florida.
All right, then. Let's see here. Rebecca.
Sure. So, Adam, how do you bridge the gap in the virtual world between a didactic learning style, like a hands-on learning style, to virtually? How do you make sure that students who might have neurodivergence or all sorts of different ways and modalities of how they learn, how do you make sure that this type of model can work, across a spectrum of different types of learners?
So this is a tremendous question. We know that Zoom was engineered as a conference call, so it doesn't really meet the needs of students who are learning online. But when we think about what do students who have neurodiversity actually need, they need concept-based instruction, right? Augustine says the words printed here are concepts, we must go through the experiences. So the idea that a student who's learning the parts of a plant, for example, in the state of Florida, can actually pick up the plant and label the xylem and the phloem, or enter a cell as opposed to read about the cell, this makes learning more efficient. And one of the proofs in the pudding is that we have a tremendous partnership in the state of Florida with an organization called Step Up for Students. It represents 94,000 families with neurodiversity. And so being able to learn in a hands-on fashion, in a concept-based way, where students can actually manipulate the academic assets becomes a very, very relevant and engaging way to learn. And as you know, with students with neurodiversity, the more relevance and the more engagement that we can offer, the better chance we have of growth. Right now, we've shown about 9% higher performance on math and literacy than our other counterparts right now in the state of Florida. So we believe that the concept-based model is a much better model for students who need that kind of approach.
Scott.
Oh, I get a question now. Wow. Okay. So.
You get a question. A question.
I forgot it's your show. You know what? I love the concept, but what do you say to your critics who say, okay, it's in Florida, you got virtual learning, I like everything about that, but there's more to an education than just teaching. What about the lack of social interaction, these kids who are enrolled, that they lose that concept and precept, and just how to socialize and talk to other students, even though they may be getting a great education? What do you say to those critics of your program?
So I am so grateful for that question, because that's really the insight. That's the thing that we know to be true that others would disagree with us on. Because it is a social VR platform, students are actually physically together in the metaverse as avatars. So we're solving the loneliness problem in online education by having that common courtesy of connection and that sense of presence, and having a teacher actually deliver instruction with that group of students present together, so that the teacher can give real feedback, real-time feedback, and that the students can benefit from each other's perspectives, right? So you read an incredible book, the memoirs of Frederick Douglass, and then you have the opportunity to discuss the impact of that cultural context in the metaverse. This is a very powerful tool to be able to create, again, relevancy and benefit from the sense of presence that you can achieve on Zoom.
How do you deal with the students who do not? How do you deal with the students who don't have high-speed internet to be able to access this virtual reality charter school?
Yep. So I'm running right now, Roland, on a Wi-Fi hotspot, and because we're funded publicly, we're able to provide internet for our families. My two children actually go to school in a rural area on a farm. And so, part of this was selfish for me. I wanted them to have a world-class education, and we wanted to develop it in a way that if we could ship a Wi-Fi hotspot, we could run the school. And so the great thing is, families can take this school with them if they travel internationally, if they're traveling around the country. They're not confined to a specific geography. This is what I think is revolutionary about our approach. The other element that I would add is that, part of my dream is to make ambulatory learning great again, right? Our very best teachers, Jesus, Socrates, these folks did not read nor write, but what they did was they walked next to their students and they asked them questions. And so that ability to take your very best teacher with you and have that teacher extend thinking by asking great questions like your panel is asking this evening, I think is a very revolutionary concept in terms of giving access to a world-class education.
All right, then. Look, we certainly appreciate it. Where can people get more information?
Oh, absolutely. Check us out at optimaed.com, and our school is Optima Academy Online. You can see us, check us out on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram as well.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
You're amazing. Love your show, Roland.
Thanks, you. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, folks. I got to go. I got to go sit on the panel for NAACP. We'll stream that later. I am not here tomorrow. Robert, are you filling in tomorrow?
Nobody told me yet, but if you need me to,
Okay. Erica, Erica's filling in tomorrow. Sorry, I thought it was you. So I'm speaking to the AK Regional in Huntsville, Alabama. So I'm flying on a red eye tonight to get there. So the AKs, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Then I'm back to LA on Friday for the Image Awards. We got interviews with Roland. We're going to be on the red carpet. And of course, we're going to be on the red carpet on Saturday as well. So Rebecca, Robert, and Scott, 5 questions, Bolden. We appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. I'll see y'all on Friday. Y'all know how we do. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.